1995, after being absent from Yellowstone National Park for more than 70 years, gray wolves were reintroduced into Lamar Valley, pictured here, and that decision turned out to be one of the most important wildlife restorations efforts in American history. To understand why this mattered so much, we need to go back to the early 20th century. At that time, gray wolves were seen as dangerous predators. As part of a national effort to eliminate them, wolves were hunted, trapped, and poisoned throughout the West, and by the mid 1920s, they were completely gone from Yellowstone. Their absence didn't just remove a predator, it disrupted the entire ecosystem. Without wolves, elk populations exploded. They grazed heavily on young willow, aspen, and cottonwood trees, especially in river valleys and near streams. These overbrowsed areas began to erode, and with fewer trees, beaver lost the wood that they needed for dams. Birds lost nesting habitat, and fish habitats suffered. The landscape was out of balance. That's why in 1995 and 1996, wildlife biologists brought 31 gray wolves from Canada and released them in the in Yellowstone, most notably in the Lamar Valley, which would become the center of wolf recovery in the park. At first, the wolves were kept in pens to acclimate to their surroundings. Then they were released into the wild. It was a bold move, and not everyone supported it. Ranchers were worried about the livestock losses, and some hunters feared fewer elk. But the reintroduction went ahead with close monitoring. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When wolves returned, they didn't just reduce elk numbers, they changed elk behavior. Elk began avoiding certain open areas like riverbanks and valleys and places where they were vulnerable to attack. This gave young trees a chance to grow over again, and willow and aspen and cottonwood trees began to return. And that set off a domino effect known as a trophic industry. With more trees, beaver came back. They had the materials they needed to build dams. These dams slowed rivers, created wetlands, and improved habitat for fish, amphibians, and birds. Songbirds populations increased, and aquatic insects and fish thrived in the cooler and slower waters. Even other predators were affected. Coyotes declined in some areas due to competition with wolves, and that allowed populations of smaller mammals like foxes and rodents to increase, and scavengers like ravens, magpies, eagles, and bears benefited by feeding on wolf kills, especially during the harsh winter months. So the return of the wolf didn't just restore a missing species, it restored balance to the entire Yellowstone ecosystem. The wolves helped reshape the land, bring back vegetation, and support diverse wildlife, and even stabilize riverbanks. Today, Yellowstone supports 8 to 10 wolf packs, totaling roughly 90 to 100 wolves. They're still protected and heavily studied, offering insight into how an ecosystem works and how one species can have a far reaching impact. Tourists are drawn to viewing wolves, which are a big draw in Yellowstone. Today, many thousands of tourists come to Yellowstone primarily to catch a fleeting glimpse of a wolf pack. This tipping point was planned by Homo sapiens and has generally had positive impacts to the environment by returning a sense of balance to an ecosystem that has evolved over hundreds of years.